In the winter of 1513, Niccolo Machiavelli sat in exile on his small farm outside Florence, stripped of the political office he had spent his career building, prohibited from entering the city whose governance he had helped shape for 14 years. He was writing, not letters requesting reinstatement, not appeals to the Medici family that had removed him. He was writing observations, cold, precise, unsentimental observations about how power actually works, stripped of every moral comfort that most writers of the era preferred to maintain. What he wrote became The Prince. It was not published until after his death. The Church condemned it. Rulers who followed its advice rarely admitted they had read it, and across 5 centuries it has never stopped being read by every person who found themselves more interested in understanding human nature than in being congratulated for how they preferred to imagine it. What follows are 9 principles derived from that tradition, not rules for cruelty, rules for personal sovereignty. The distinction matters enormously. Machiavelli was not teaching men to dominate. He was teaching them not to be dominated by their own unexamined impulses. But before going further into those ideas, there is something important to share personally. Before we go further, I rescue injured dogs, animals that had nowhere else to go. Before this channel was demonetized, I was caring for 10 dogs. I've now been forced to cut down to 5. Some had to leave before they were fully rehabilitated, relying on kind people to take them in because the situation became too difficult to manage alone. Right now, things are genuinely hard. There are days they eat leftover food from restaurants, not because it is ideal, but because it is what is available at the time. They still require proper care, food, and a real chance at recovery and stability. If this channel has helped you in any way, and you are in a position to help, the PayPal email is in the description. Even small contributions go directly toward their care. And if not, simply being here and watching still means a lot. 1. Never over-explain yourself. When you justify every decision to the people around you, you are implicitly asking for their approval. You are treating their evaluation of your reasoning as a prerequisite for your action. This is not confidence. It is its opposite wearing confidence's clothes. A man who says what he decided and does it conveys more authority through restraint than through 10 sentences of justification. Machiavelli understood that silence generates curiosity, and explanation generates judgment. Let people wonder about you. Do not teach them how to evaluate you. 2. Never chase. The emotion behind chasing is fear. The fear that if you do not pursue, what you want will not come. And fear is one of the most visible qualities in a human being. People feel it before they can articulate it. When you chase in the context of attraction, you communicate desperation more clearly than words could. The man who lives his life fully, who has things worth returning to, who treats his own attention as something worth earning, this man attracts without pursuing. Presence is not passive, it is a form of power. Chasing is a form of surrender. 3. Don't reveal your whole life too soon. Discovery is how people build investment. When you disclose everything about yourself in the first week of any relationship, romantic, professional, or social, you remove the very mechanism through which the other person would have naturally grown curious about you. Machiavelli called this controlled revelation. You give people enough to be interested. You give them nothing that removes the need for further inquiry. The most interesting people are not necessarily the most complex. They are the most intelligently staged. 4. Never try to change her. A man who dedicates himself to reforming another person's emotional patterns, values, or personality is not demonstrating love. He is demonstrating the need to control an environment he finds threatening. It will not work. It will cost him respect, And the energy spent trying to reshape another person is energy not spent building the life that would have made him attractive in the first place. The mature position is simple: accept what is, or remove yourself. The third option, staying and trying to change, serves neither party. 5. Never neglect your mission for her. Machiavelli spent a chapter of The Prince explaining why a ruler who cannot maintain his own authority will eventually lose it to those he was trying to please. The parallel in personal life is exact. The man whose life purpose dissolves into a relationship has made the relationship his purpose, and relationships cannot sustain that weight. They were not designed to. A man with a mission is attractive. A man who gave up his mission for someone is someone that person now pities or resents, because they know, even if they never say it, that they cannot be the thing worth sacrificing everything for. 6. Never compete for her attention. If you are competing for someone's attention, you have already conceded the premise that their attention is the prize and you are one of the competitors. The power in that arrangement belongs entirely to the person being competed for. Machiavelli's counsel was never to enter a contest whose terms someone else had set. When you notice yourself competing, checking if she noticed you talking to someone else, adjusting your behavior to outperform another man's behavior in the same space, step back. The competition is a trap. Your value is not a comparative claim. It is a statement about who you are, independent of any comparison. 7. Never make her the source of your happiness. When your emotional state depends on another person's behavior, you have outsourced your inner life to someone who did not agree to manage it. This creates anxiety in you and suffocation in the other person. The man who is genuinely content, independent of the relationship's current weather, is the most stable and the most attractive presence in a relationship, because he is not asking the relationship to be something it was never designed to be. Contentment is internal work. It cannot be outsourced without consequences. 8. Don't react emotionally to her tests. Tests in relationships are not malicious by design. They are inquiries, the unconscious and sometimes conscious, assessment of whether you are who you appear to be, or whether sufficient pressure will reveal a different person beneath. The inquiry is not unfair. The response is what matters. A man who remains calm, slightly amused, and fundamentally unchanged by emotional provocation demonstrates something that cannot be manufactured: genuine stability. This quality is rare. It communicates safety more effectively than any words or grand gestures could. 9. Never apologize for your standards. Your standards are not demands placed on others. They are descriptions of what you can live with and what you cannot. When you apologize for having them, when you minimize them, preface them with apologies, or quietly abandon them to avoid conflict, you communicate that you do not believe you are worth the standards you profess to hold. The right person will not be driven away by standards clearly held. They will be drawn by the clarity. Standards are not walls. They are honest descriptions of the kind of life you are building. Invite people to join it. Do not apologize for what it looks like. Machiavelli never wrote about relationships directly. He wrote about power, and about the way power is lost by those who cannot master themselves before attempting to influence others. The 9 principles above are applications of a single underlying truth he documented across 5 centuries ago. The man who governs himself well will not need to govern anyone else to have the life he wants. Self-sovereignty is not dominance. It is the precondition of genuine connection. He wrote this in exile, in the cold, having lost everything except his observations, and 500 years later the observations are still correct.